Hey, what's up out there? Sorry, it took us a little while to get going. I ran into some issues trying to get our stream to show both of us at the same time. I'm here with Rocco, though. As soon as he says something, he should pop up.
Hello, I'm gonna be probably full screen for a second. Is it actually happening, Jason?
Yeah, yeah,
All
it's
right, sweet,
looking good. And I muted my other thing, so I won't be talking over you again.
awesome.
Yep. Anyway, welcome everybody. We're going to talk about WebGL stuff, building games for the web, also about a game jam and some other random little stories and answer some questions. We can only go until a little bit before noon. Rocco's got some stuff going on, and so do I. But maybe we'll come back and do it again if people have lots of questions. Um, anyway, first, I just wanted to introduce Rocco because I met him at Unite and we talk all the time. He's a cool dude. And he runs the site simmer.io. I've shared some videos where I use a site and show people how to deploy stuff out there, but it's a site where you can take your game and deploy it out, and let people play it and share it really, really easily. That was the thing I loved about it the most, was able to just kind of take a game and drop it right up there. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that real quick, Rocco, before
Sure. I mean, what we do is we just have this drag and drop platform where you take a Unity export to WebGL and you take your folder, put it on the site. Like one of the things that I try to do is make it as drag and drop as possible, so you don't have to zip the thing, you don't have to do anything. And I think there's a lot of other sites out there now, and I think one of the things that we do is just help you get your game shared, and you don't want it to just sit around on your hard drive. You want it to go out to the world so that everyone could check it out.
Yep, totally agree. First on just the point of it being so damn easy. That was the thing that blew me away, was how easy it was. I just literally took the folder, the build folder, dropped it on there, and it worked. And I was surprised. Like, this seems way too good, way too simple. Because I tried to do deployments. I mean, I'd done them before with S3, but I'd always go through and do a big setup and try to get it working, and it'd take me like an hour. And this time,
You got to set up your HTTPS. You got to do this, that, and that's the kind of thing that I want people to focus on what they're great at, which is making games, and then the sharing them should be easy.
Yeah, that was what you did pretty much. It was cool.
That's it.
I really liked it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what I should talk about first with the Simmer stuff or WebGL stuff. I guess I wanted to make sure that if anybody has questions about building games like for the web, or I get random Unity stuff too, but we got Rocco here, so if you got WebGL specific stuff, now is the perfect time to ask them. Feel free to just drop them in chat and we'll answer them. But I did want to tell briefly a quick story. I don't know, you were in the chat with me, Rocco, when Chris was dealing with all these problems with TextMesh Pro and his deployments. So he was using
specifically out to the web. Is that right?
So he's going out to WebGL. It was interesting because we thought it was this big WebGL related issue. We're like, oh man, it doesn't work. He's using Cloud Build and trying to build up his game, and he'd get the deployment and he'd push it out. Didn't matter if you went through their thing or S3 or dropped it on Simmer, wherever he put it, it was the same issue. And he's like, oh man, WebGL, like, I don't know why it's breaking my my text. Text was pink, right? And we're looking through the whole thing. Everything looks good. He'd build a local one and somehow it was okay. And then find out, it took us like 2 weeks before it came to realize that there was a time when TextMesh Pro was changing where it was in the project structure. And at that time, somebody had put a gitignore file on the Unity, the GitHub Unity gitignore, like the standard one everybody grabs.
Sure.
He happened to grab the one that ignored a TextMesh Pro folder right when it was there before it got reverted back out because it broke things. So he had a bad gitignore the entire time.
That teaches you that life just sucks sometimes, right?
Like after we found out, I go back to the gitignore page and like the top commit is like reverted the thing that broke TextMesh Pro. Like, oh, that's what it was. So wasn't even a WebGL issue. It was great. It just cracked me up because
it's so funny. I mean, like the thing that people have to remember is that you go on GitHub and you feel like it's this is this great thing where there's all these super professional developers that would never mess anything up, and that's not always the case, is it?
No, especially with something like a git ignore, like you're not going to think that that's changing and breaking and that like maybe you need to update your git ignore file. Like,
Right, of course, and that's not something that you'd even look at because it's a hidden file, right? You put the dot in front of it. At least on
yep.
my Mac, it never shows. So
And then it was so anybody that doesn't understand why it was breaking, by the way, it was on the build system, the git ignore was not it was making it not pull down those text mesh profiles. So it was missing all of the assets for the text only on the build system when it would do the pull because of the ignore. He still had them there locally. They just weren't getting committed. There were a couple questions that popped up, by the way, Rocco, if you want to.
sweet. I don't see them, so if you want to.
Well, there were one of them was about multiplayer games, making them in Unity, and they wanted to know if they need to learn something special like Node.js. I'll take that one real quick because it's not really WebGL, but yes, you need to learn different stuff. Node.js is probably not what you need to learn if you want to build multiplayer Unity games. Depending on the type of game, you're either going to want to run something like somebody mentioned Photon or Bolt or raw UDP if you want like a really fast game where it's like shooter first person thing. That's very difficult though. Don't get me wrong. Like if you don't know how to do it, go with Photon or Bolt for one of those and get started, but don't expect to be able to scale massively from the start. It's not an easy problem to solve at big scale. But if you want to build a relatively minor or reasonable size game, it's totally doable. And then if you're doing other kinds of stuff like turn-based things where it's not real time, you could again build your own thing in Node. But if you don't know it and you're not comfortable with it, it's not already a thing you have. I wouldn't do that. I'd go with something out there. One of the services, there's PlayFab, and I think like a dozen other ones that let
Hang on, Jason. I'm gonna actually write down all of these suggestions you have because I get this question a lot. So
okay.
PlayFab is one of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a video on that one and a couple others that people have told me about and see what I like.
There's a Microsoft one. Firebase does something as well, which is a Google product. And you know, I think you're right. It's sort of biting off Node.js. That's what I write a lot of my code in, and you know, it would take a lot of knowledge about that system. Although, of course, you could do something very powerful with that as well. So,
yeah. But yeah, I think if you know it, like you're comfortable with Node, then it might be a valid option. If it's something that you're going to learn while you're trying to learn making games in Unity and multiplayer, I would totally avoid it because it's just going to be a distraction and make it more difficult. Go the easiest route and get it built, and then work on making it fast and right. Like get it working first.
That's a fantastic observation, and you know, I completely agree with that. Whatever you can do to make or get the job done is really great, you know?
Yeah, I totally there. Like get it working and then version 2, make it better, make it faster. You're not going to know all of the things that you're missing if you try to over engineer and over architect it from the beginning. Well, let's hit those WebGL questions though. So somebody asked, are the WebGL builds stable?
Are they stable? So I have 6,000 games on simmer.io right now. Are they stable? I guess that depends what you mean. So
I assume it means crashing wise, like breaking.
I don't see many of them crashing. There are people that come on to the site and get basically blank screen right at the beginning. And that's because WebGL is a completely different, I would say it's a completely different export path. So they have their own problems with that. But if people get into your game, I think for the most part, it's going to work just as much as other platforms.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of issues with it crashing or being buggy, at least not recently. It seems like they got a lot of that kind of figured out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little bit slower than other platforms. And, you know, that's just something you have to deal with on the web.
Yeah, it is really nice to be able to share stuff, though. If anybody hasn't done a WebGL build, you should definitely try it. Just go make something small, simple, and just do it and see how freaking easy it is. It takes time. The builds are slow, but the fact that you can just drop it onto a web page and let people play your game is amazing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of one of the things that got me so excited about it is I'm a web guy, and just being able to see that you can get that thing in a web browser so easily is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a great way to share stuff. And it's a lot easier than like trying to zip it up and send somebody your executable in your game, because you got like, a maybe 10-15% chance they're actually going to unzip it and run it and go past the Windows Defender I haven't seen this before message and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly get worried all the time when I download stuff that it's going to mess up my computer, and I think that is a valid concern.
Yeah.
For developers and anyone else, right?
Yeah, and I think just as programmers, it's very easy to know how bad something could be and how how easy it is to hide something really bad and something unobvious, or accidentally have something bad in there. So
right, sure.
Let's see. Somebody else asked. Sometimes I've seen requests to make WebGL games for VR. Is that possible, or were they wrong?
No, it is possible. I'm actually in discussions with a guy at Mozilla right now, and they have put together a web VR template that you can use, and I actually recently tried it. It's still working. The only thing is you need like some balls to the wall, super powerful PC to run this stuff. I ran it on my sort of current generation Mac, and it's kind of very chuggy. You see the as you're walking around, but you can actually create web VR exports, and you just look for that asset on the Unity Assets store, and you should be able to get it.
Interesting. I've seen it at events, but I've never actually played with it. Like, I saw people demoing really early versions of it. But I never played with it, and it seemed like it would run like crap, and it didn't look very impressive. But I figured eventually it's going to get to the point where it runs, everything speeds up eventually, and it'll just work high speed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of one of those things. It's an early technology, but you can do it with Unity, and of course, other folks have done web VR outside of Unity that actually does run a bit faster.
Interesting. I just posted the link to Facebook real quick.
Oh, sweet. Awesome.
My thumbnail is literally the notepad one, though, because I couldn't figure out how to get rid of the pumpkin.
I like
I have to prepare a better thumbnail next time.
I like that I'm not in charge, and Jason just does all this awesome stuff.
All right, let's see what else we got for questions. So somebody said, hi, I'm 36, learning C# for about a year. Is it possible to find a job as a junior developer at that age? Yeah, definitely. I've seen people jump into programming and development at all different ages, 30s, 40s, 50s even, and just jump in. Obviously, the earlier you get in, the better, because you're just going to have more and more experience. But there's no reason that you can't kick it off and be amazing at 36. I've seen some developers. I wish Chris was in here. He brought in all kinds of developers from all different backgrounds and stuff, and seen amazing results. So I don't see any reason not to. What about you, Rocco? You think?
Well, I'm 37. I'm getting my cane out and all this stuff. No, I think that there's a tremendous shortage of programmers, so you should be able to do just fine. I think when I think about it, one of the things you'll be up against is people will expect you to be more senior just based on your age. And I think what you need to do is just make it incredibly clear. Like, I'm, getting into this as someone new, and I'm not looking for that senior position. I'm just trying to, get my thing around. Of course, when I'm actually saying that out loud, I'm like, maybe not. You should maybe just tell them you're awesome and use some hair dye or something. What do you think?
Some hair dye.
I'm just looking at your beard with the little gray in it.
Oh yeah. You got to dye it. Right. It makes you seem like you know more.
I don't know. I'm just kind of shooting the shit. I mean, is there anything else you could add to that?
No. I think you're right. Like, it's definitely something you can do. And just when you mentioned that there are more jobs, like, I don't remember where I saw the stat, but I think the number of programming jobs doubles every, was it 5 years or 2 years or something ridiculous?
Right.
Like, it's just huge.
You sort of reap the benefits of that. The salaries are pretty high. It's going to be much better than I don't know, working at Safeway.
The demand is huge, and it's a super portable job, right? Like a lot of the time it doesn't matter necessarily where you live. You can be a programmer, in Antarctica and still be productive if you wanted to. It'd be hard, but it's certainly possible. There's no like physical. There are a lot of jobs where you have to be in the spot, and it's just not possible to do the job without being there.
Right. My wife works in a lab, so you have to be at the lab and fill up the test tubes and all that bull.
Yep, and that's kind of like programming. Your lab can fit in your pocket, right? It's perfect. Let's see some other questions. Are you a web guy like Spider-Man? Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's see. What's your suggestion for syncing character position over a real-time network for iOS and Android? I don't know if I could give a good quick suggestion on that. I want to bring Kyle on and talk about networking stuff to give a really good answer for that. But there's a lot of things that you have to do to get that right and good, depending on the game type. And it varies a lot based on the type of game. I'm going to see if I can get him in here this week, though, and maybe we can do another one.
Yeah, I agree. I think, sort of the networking stuff, as soon as I heard that our game was going to be networked, back when I worked on this stuff about 10 years ago, I was like, oh shit, it's gonna take way longer.
Dramatically harder.
Yeah, like it's a hard problem to solve, but I think folks will eventually get it.
I tell people it's about, if you want to make a single player game, that's hard. If you want to make a multiplayer one, it's about 10 times harder.
Right.
It's going to take you about 10 times the effort and energy. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's usually the case. Like building single player games is simple. That's the nice thing about building a multiplayer game is once you do it, going back to a single player game, it just feels like,
you're like, hell yeah.
Like, everything got simple now. Like I can just move things and I don't have to worry about it. Like it just moves and like everything works. I don't have to test this with 100 people or whatever. Let's see. So what other questions do we have? I had a problem uploading a game built in WebGL where it wouldn't show the video sequence and want to know if there's been a historical issue with that.
So has there been a historical issue with that? Yeah, I've heard a lot of folks have problems with video in WebGL. One of the possible things that can go wrong is that you're reaching out to a resource that's somewhere else, and the server that's serving that stuff doesn't have CORS turned on. CORS is called Cross Origin Resource something or other. So I got all the pieces of that acronym together. Cross Origin Resource something or other. And so one thing that can happen is you're not able to pull that off of another website because their server says, "Hey, no, I'm not going to give this away to any old website." Can't remember any other direct reasons that doesn't work, but if you're doing a YouTube video or something like that, I don't think that the CORS is a setting that they often have turned on. Yeah,
CORS was a pain when I was doing web stuff. That was always a pain for me. I'd run into that problem multiple times, and I remember trying to fix it and fixing it, and it being just a nightmare to do every time.
I think the one big thing to remember there is it is a server setting on the server that's trying to release the stuff. And if you know that, it's like, okay, I'm writing the game code and I don't necessarily have to worry about, or I know that issue is on the back end and that whoever's running that server needs to fix it. And that was a big unlock for me.
That makes sense. Let's see what other questions are. I was changing the thumbnail real quick while I do this.
All right, no
trying problem. To get our thumbnail updated to a nice, pretty Simmer logo at least.
Oh, thank you.
I threw it into the wrong folder. So let's see. Let's swap that out real quick so people know that we're not talking about Notepad. I don't know how well that worked. Anyway, let's see. What's the next question? By the way, if you guys don't mind hitting the like button, be awesome, or sharing the video. we can get more people in, just asking more questions for Rocco. And if you guys have questions afterwards, you're watching this later, just drop them below, and then maybe we can hit them next time. So let's see, what other stuff did we have? How do you run Unity physics in the server? So what I've seen done a lot of the time now is just running a headless server. It used to be kind of a pain to do and not very easy. It used to be somewhat problematic, I think, but people still did it. Now I think it's pretty straightforward and simple. There's not a good reason to do physics outside of just running a Unity server. Depending on the scale, you might have to do something like a dedicated physics server that's just doing that. But most of the time, what I'm seeing now is that the servers are just running essentially a version of Unity that's not showing the renderer, and it works out pretty well. And it's also probably the easiest way to make it all happen. You could redo the whole physics system separately, but you're going to end up with a lot of work just getting that going. And I'd work on building the game.
So real quick, what is a head of list server? I actually don't know what that is.
Oh, the headless server. So you can run
headless.
Okay. With, I think it's -- headless, or I forget. They changed the thing on there. I just have it in a batch file, but you run it with a command line thing, and what it'll do is it'll run and not run the renderer. So it'll run like kind of, you don't see it. So you can run it like on a Linux box, and it just runs as a process. So it can handle all the networking and everything except for showing the game. And then just makes it so you can do it high speed. It saves a lot on resources, and you can kick up a bunch of servers at once.
I thought you said head of list, but headless.
Oh, okay.
Headless server is something we use all the time in web development. We use it to test out things and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so just my bad pronunciation. I got to work on that. So somebody asked, what does vector3.normalized do? It takes a vector3 and adjusts it so that the magnitude is 1. So a vector3, are you doing some focusing?
I'm doing, yes. No, I'm showing, this is what a regular vector is, and there's a 1 vector. 1 head right there.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so you could have like, a good example would be like you have a vector3 that's got a 10 for the X, a 20 for the Y, and a 30 for the Z. Or let's say like a 10, and a 1, right? If you normalize it, I'm doing this terribly. What it's going to do, though, it's going to shrink all the values down. They're going to be less than 1, and it's going to make it into just a direction. The point of it is to take a direction plus magnitude and just turn it into a direction. The normalized one is just the direction without the magnitude. Let's see what else we got here.
Can I start asking you about quaternions? Because I don't know how to do that.
No, don't ask me about quaternions.
I only know how to do quaternion dot whatever. But
yeah, no, I'm still pretty bad.
That's one of those funny things is it's like we learned all this math in college, or at least I did, and in Unity 3D.college. Just kidding. And it's just sometimes you don't have to know the math underneath it.
Yeah, and that's been the case for me. I learned the stuff a couple times and I forget it every time until I need to use it again. Then I go relearn it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So I'm still terrible with quaternions though.
Axis angle pair.
Yeah,
be good.
So somebody said, if there's a main player and we want to interact with other people, like talking or taking their side missions, how are we supposed to do that? That's a kind of a bigger question. That's really, you need to set up dialogue systems probably that the NPCs that you have can pop up. So you'd set up like NPCs with a dialogue system with some data that you can assign, and then some interaction initiator on your player. So your player knows that when you hit whatever button it'll do a raycast, find the NPC that's in front of you, and then look for a dialogue and maybe kick up that dialogue. It's certainly a bigger thing that you'd have to put together, but that's, I think, a rough way of how I would do it.
Sounds about right.
So let's see. Oh, the reply on the video stuff, and he said, thanks, got it. The video issue happened when the video was a local file included with the Unity game assets folder, but it might be a CORS issue there too. Thanks for the insight.
I think you might need to put it in a folder called streaming assets. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Oh, that does sound right. It'd have to be in that streaming app to be able to load it like that at runtime. I think you might be right. It's been too long.
I might be wrong too. So
Yeah, I
you guys let us know.
find out. So somebody asked, please make a video on real-time multiplayer games. That is something I plan to do sometime soon. Just kind of waiting to see what Unity does with their new network stack now that they've deprecated UNet. So
yeah, I'm working with some guys. They've made Gundar.io and a couple of the other big IO games. And they are releasing an engine, and you should be able to get a video about that on simmer.io in the next couple of weeks.
nice.
It sounded like these guys they made a bunch of games, but it was all to show off the engine, and that's sort of their new thing coming down the road.
Oh, cool. I'm
Maybe
excited
we
to
can check it out and see what happens.
Yeah. And then somebody else recommended visualizing quaternions 4D numbers with stereographic projection video from 3 blue, 1 brown. And somebody else backed it up saying it was good. So I'll have to check that out. Anybody else watching?
Sweet. I do remember buying a book. Remember those things?
Yeah, I have a couple of them laying around.
You have a couple of them? I remember buying a book that was called Visualizing Quaternions. And then I used it to prop up my monitor.
So you could visualize them, right?
Yes, I visualized the goddamn monitor going up. Sorry about the cursing.
That's too funny. Oh, somebody mentioned six. I think you misunderstood. You mentioned that you had 6,000 games on you said on Steam. I think you're talking about on Simmer, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I think you misheard. So it was on Rocco's site, simmer.io. How long did it take for those games to all get up there? How long has it been going?
Let me first say I wish I was Gabe Newell and had 100,000 games that people are paying big money for, and I take my 30% cut and all that. But Simmer is different.
I wish you were Gabe too. It's okay. Of course, I wish I was Gabe too.
Right. We'd be not having this conversation now, would we?
We'd be having even more exciting ones.
Indeed, we'd be jumping in our pools of money.
It'd be implanting VR into my head.
So 6,000 people. We've been doing it for about 2 years right now. So that's when those games came in. They're trickling in over time. And, I think sort of the funny and interesting thing is when I first put out the site waiting for that first game, I was just constantly refreshing the thing. Like, come on, somebody. And somebody actually from the Unity Asset Store ended up putting something up. I remember emailing a bunch of those folks, but sort of getting something started like this is a trick, right? You need to get those early adopters on, and definitely that first one is difficult.
Nice. So the first one was an Asset Store vendor?
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to remember. It was actually like a really nice looking 3D asset, and it's kind of eluding me right now. But
okay, that's cool. It seems like another good use too to put up the demos for systems if you built assets.
Yeah, and I've been trying forever to get the Unity Asset Store to put Simmer links up there. They have Sketchfab links, but it would be cool to just play the games directly on the asset store, before they're even launched. But
yeah, I totally agree. That would be neat. Just be able to jump in and run around and play them, having those as like default links on there.
I've even offered to like tell them how to do it.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you don't have to use Simmer. Let's get it working.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, I wanted to briefly talk about the game jam you got coming up too before we run out of time.
Perfect. Oh yeah, we are running out of time.
We got about 10 minutes left before Rocco.
Game Jam on Veterans Day weekend. We have a bunch of sponsors. There are going to be $600 in prizes for people that are using this new technology called web monetization. So the idea of web monetization is you put a tag on your game, and it's basically a meta tag in HTML, but the idea is people can stream money into you as the game developer. So it is early technology, and we don't know that it's going to sort of make people rich or anything. In fact, I would guess that it won't. But it is a possible revenue stream for people. So that's through this company called Coil.com, and they're one of the main sponsors. And then we also are offering additional prizes for people that do the main theme. We have a Discord server, and if you get on the Simmer Discord server, you can help me figure out what this theme is going to be. I think it should be a fun time for all. And that's, again, Veterans Day weekend, November 8th to 10th.
How do they get on the Discord server?
It is on our front page, I believe.
Just linked on the main Simmer page?
Yeah, it's on the main Simmer page right below our little bragging thing about how many games we got and all that.
Oh, okay. Yep. And what about to sign up for the game jam? What do they got to do?
That's also right on the front page.
Okay, so just hop over to the front page.
Yeah, you can sign up. Hopefully you do that, because it just gives me a chance to send you a quick email to remind you. If not, you come back on November 8th and come and do the jam. And cool. Jason's also a sponsor of the jam.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. Game jams are really cool. How long is the thing going for? Is it a weekend long?
Yeah, it's just the weekend. We're not even going to do the long weekend. Okay. We're going to do Friday to Sunday, and that'll give me and my community manager Alejandro a chance to judge the titles when we're both not busy. So
nice. It's cool. It looks like you had a couple more questions too. See, so there was one. He said, "What was it like creating a game hosting startup like Simmer? How did you get your name out and get early adopters?" And you kind of mentioned that a little bit. I don't know if you have more to add to that though.
Well, that's a really cool question. Thank you. Are you a shill or something? But he's not, he or she are not, of course. So yeah, I mean, it's been super fun. It's been somewhere in my life between something that's a hobby and something that I'm trying to turn into a business. I think over the next couple of months, we are going to offer some sort of premium hosting services and stuff like that. And but sort of right at the beginning, it was frustrating because I built something pretty cool, and it took a while for people to find out about it. But over time, I think that it's something that's been more and more rewarding as I continue on with it.
Tends to be the way things go. People build cool stuff, and then the hard part is getting everybody to know about it and see it and know that it exists, right?
Well, you're a YouTuber, so of course you know that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And then there was another question. He said, another one. "Aw, dude, I love Simmer." Right?
Oh,
made me consider building some WebGL games. But he wants to know what your policy is on 18+ games with blood, gore, and violence.
Oh shit, you're making me really think about this stuff now.
Is there a policy yet? Is something
there is a policy. I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, actually. So violence is fine and sex is not fine.
Okay.
And I'm kind of ashamed to have that be the line, but that's the site has run out of the US, so kill everyone, don't have sex. That's it.
No, it makes sense I can totally understand why, just because violence in video games is kind of automatic and default. Like, it's going to be there no matter what. And then the sex stuff, it does bring out the people who get way too upset and lose their minds, and then negative publicity and whatever other.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair enough thing. And then like straight up gambling, of course, is not allowed. You got to find somewhere else for that. But I don't know. I'm just trying to make everyone happy. But...
Well, and you also have to deal with kids going on the site and all the other stuff, all the legal problems. So I make sense. But yeah, it looks like he just wants blood, gore, and violence. So
yeah,
good to go, right?
Kill everyone. Don't ever make love.
Kill everyone. Just put their clothes on first.
Yes, exactly.
Let's see. Just some people saying nice things. I think we're out of questions. I don't know if anybody has any other questions. We got to go in just a few minutes, but I don't know if I have any other questions. What do you got, Rocco?
A question for you.
Doesn't have to be for me. It could be for the
No,
audience
for the audience.
or me or anybody. Ask Elon Musk a
When
question and we'll convince him to watch the
no,
video.
I actually have a good question. When do you guys so your audience is mostly game developers, right?
Yeah.
Um, in a way, I'm trying to figure out what time to market to folks in terms of sending them emails and things. You know, and of course, maybe everyone's gonna lie now after I said that. But when do you most work on games, and like how often do you actually release those games? I guess that's my question for the audience,
Huh.
and it might take a minute.
Yeah, I'll give him a minute to answer. I know for me, like, the answer is all day and almost never, right? Like,
Right.
work
That
on games nonstop, but very rarely do releases. And it's like I work on games 7 days a week, just doing stuff. I'm kind of curious what other people do, and they tend to go, you know, I'd say like a short project is maybe 3 months, but an average is probably 9 months to a year.
definitely. Yeah. I
Or
mean, I know how. Man, I just always am talking about how, oh, that thing should be easy, right? Like I'm gonna do a loading screen editor. It'll take me a day, and then I mean, this stuff takes time.
it does. It takes time to get it right. It's always easy to get like the first crappy
Right,
version
the
going.
broad strokes, I know.
Yeah. And then it's like,
And that's always the danger if you actually are working for someone. You can like put up a quick demo really fast, and then they're like, "Oh, so it's ready to go," and then you're never quite there.
yeah. So you got to use paper for those paper demo. So they can't get confused at all. I've done the same thing. Like, hey,
That
here's a really neat demo. Like, click on it. All these buttons, and they're going through. Like, so does it work? Like, oh no, none of the things actually do anything. It's just literally just trying to show you the UI and ask if there's anything missing. And yeah, they just still kind of get the wrong idea. So
Yeah, it's
paper demo.
definitely a trick of being a programmer. You always want to sell yourself as someone that's able to do things very quickly. But one of the things always is that sometimes if you sell yourself too hard, you end up in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. Yep. The other problem I have is sometimes going down the wrong path and working really hard on something that's totally pointless. Occasionally,
Uh,
like, hey, let me fix this thing up, and like realize later, like it was a thing you were just gonna delete anyway. Like, it
mhm,
didn't matter. It's something nobody's gonna notice, and it's very easy to get distracted with that stuff.
definitely.
All right. Yeah. It looks like everybody else is answering very similar. 3 to 9 months. And working 40 to 80 hours, 60 hours a week. It's weird. Game developers tend to work crazy hours. Usually, from what I've seen, because they want to, because they're into it and they love it, not because they have to.
Yeah, I could go into it. We could do a whole new thing on that. I worked in the actual game industry, and it is actually as
Was it very crunchy?
it was very crunchy where I
Interesting.
worked.
I've seen a lot of companies, and I've talked to friends who had really bad crunchy experiences, but most of them don't. Like most of them,
That's great.
which was a surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, I had the definite direct experience of it being really, really painful.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah, I'm not
anyway,
surprised. I mean, the stories don't come from nowhere, right? Like there aren't EA hate sites for no reason.
I did not work for EA.
Yeah,
But
people were working crazy amounts. Oh, I know. I don't know if you ever seen those like EA wife sites. Like,
definitely, yeah, the EA spouse.
but yeah, I mean, most places I've seen, it's relative. I mean, everybody is kind of on the same page, and they all have lives, and they all want to do things, and it's
Well,
not
that's
as
great,
bad.
man. I maybe that's changed. I haven't been in the games industry for over 10 years, so
I think
or
it
almost 10
varies
years.
dramatically from environment to environment, though, company to company. I've seen also like in non-game companies where people were working 80 hours a week, just
Definitely.
stop trying to get a release done. I've also seen people work 80 hours a week and they were working and they're literally just walking around the halls all day and like, I don't know what they're
Yeah,
doing.
I mean, we definitely had we had a pinball hall in our place, and some of the the guys that would complain most about the long hours were in there more than they were at their desks typing code up. So
Yeah, it tends, I don't know. In my experience, most places, they care more, at least with software, more about whether or not the things are getting done, getting committed and work, than the amount of time that they take. It's like, here are the things that we need done. Are they getting done or not? If they're not getting done, what do we need to do to fix it? And I guess sometimes that might be crunching because they just don't know a better solution, or they don't have an alternative solution. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. Anyway, I know you got to head out, so I don't want to hold you on. It's already 11:55, but I want to say thanks and just remind everybody to check out simmer.io, check out the game jam next month, early next month. Just go get signed up, and should be cool. Hopefully,
thank you guys.
Join in too.
Thank you a ton for Jason as well for just having me on. It was super fun to talk to you and just shoot the shit for an hour or so. So
yeah,
really
I have a blast doing these, man. Like I started doing them all the time now just because it's fun. Like I just get to sit here and talk to people, ask questions, answer stuff, and have a good time. So,
and we'll throw it up on the site soon if you're. So this gets actually recorded on YouTube and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it'll be up there. Be getting views for the next week or two.
Perfect, awesome,
cool. All right, thanks everybody.
We'll catch you soon. Cheers. Be good.